Cool. Well, it looks like we have a small group, but it's 12:02 and I want to respect everybody's time. So we're just going to go ahead and get started. So before we begin our discussion today, I just want to take a moment to appreciate the land and waterways we call our home that I'm here talking to you from. And just going to ask everyone to take a moment to think of one of your favorite places in nature and imagine what it was like hundreds of years ago. The land and water surrounding us has had human activity for thousands of years. The original caretakers or stewards of what we now call Central Oregon were part of three communities: the Warm Springs people, the Wasco people, and the Northern Paiute people. An unfair agreement or treaty forced these original caretakers to move from their lands to the Warm Springs Reservation. Today, Central Oregon is still home to members of these three communities and other tribes. Today, many local indigenous people continue to be caretakers of the land and observe ancient traditions and values. To honor and acknowledge the original caretakers of this land, we share our gratitude for their stewardship and strive to be good caretakers of the land as well. And if anyone on the call isn't familiar, what I just shared is a land acknowledgement, and we are doing those in our programs. What I just shared with you is the one that we use with kids in our programs as well. So we can get started with some introductions, and if you could share your name and your family structure, so who's a part of your family, and one personal strength, something that's a strength of yours that you do really well. And whoever wants to start, you can just go ahead and unmute yourself.
I'll go first. This is Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
Hi. So I'm a single mom of two girls who are almost 8 and 5.5. And Dad does live in Bend, so they have some time with him at times. We are currently home/unschooling, which has been an incredible ride and actually so much fun. I'm learning so much. I would say one of my personal strengths is I'm the planner. I love planning new activities for us to do. So today there's like St. Patrick art all over the counter that we're decorating the house with. So I'm glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Rachel.
I'll share. My name is Beth. I don't have any kids currently, but from my family of origin, which I'll probably be referencing in today's topic, I grew up with mom, dad, and an older sister. And a personal strength of mine is being empathetic and caring for other people.
I'll go. Hi, everyone. I'm Mel, she, hers, and my family right now is just me and my husband, so I will probably also be leaning on how I grew up, which was as an only child, and but then later adopted some younger siblings, and I think my strengths in regards to my family life there is I was always the person that could get everybody to calm down.
I'll go. This is Mary. My pronouns are she, her, and I also do not have any children. So I currently live with my husband and grew up with both my parents, a mother and a father, and a sister. Oh, and my strength. One of my strengths is I feel like I can be a good listener.
I'm happy to share. I'm Keisha, she, her, and my family structure is I have a husband and 2 kids. My daughter is 18 and she's off at her first year in college over the hill at OSU. My son is 14 and a freshman at Mountain View. And then I will say, I feel like as part of my family structure, I have a lot of extended family, literally within a block of us. So both of my parents live around the corner. Both of my husband's parents live around the corner. And we have, my brother lives just a little ways away and his wife and grown kids now. So they're out of the house. But, and then my brother-in-law and his wife and 3 kids live around the corner. So we have a lot of extended family that's always sort of an integral part of family for us. And this has been an interesting year for that. But I would say my personal strength is I appreciated Rachel saying planner. I think I am, although I feel like that's waned in this past year, where it sounds like you've really leaned into your strength for planning. Mine is sort of withered, or I feel more chaotic than usual, but I am normally very organized and like to have a plan.
Marilyn, you are, I know you said that you're kind of in and out. So if you're available, you're the last one to go.
Maybe she won't be able to. Should move on. Can't talk, she says in chat.
She just messaged in the chat.
Okay, great. Well, we're glad you're here listening anyway. So I just wanted to start with kind of talking about why we think that celebration is important. And so anyone can jump in and just share one of the things, I'm making the assumption that because you're here, you believe that celebration is important. And so if anyone wants to just share some of the things that come to mind of why is it important?
I think it makes people, especially young people, feel seen and like someone is paying attention to their either struggles or accomplishments.
I think a lot about celebrations as like small wins that are motivating, where you can really, once you have a milestone of something to celebrate, it's motivation to keep going, whether it's habits or goals, helps to motivate.
I was just thinking that it helps break up the monotony of the constant negative self-talk that we're all humans and are guilty of doing.
Yeah, I actually skipped over one of the reasons why I asked us all to share a strength is because I personally hate doing that. And even though I was the one who wrote that question as being one of the things to do, and a lot of people are uncomfortable saying good things about themselves or recognizing their strengths and sharing them. And so to Mel's point, having celebration is a way to kind of counteract that cycle of negative self-talk and maybe put a little emphasis on the positive and retrain ourselves to recognize that that's okay. And not only is it okay, it's great. It's a good thing to do. Well, moving on to our next slide, the science of celebration. So It's more than warm fuzzies. It's not just about we want to feel good and all of that stuff. There actually is a lot of science behind the fact that celebration is great. So some of these we already talked about, but it's good for your brain and body. Celebration can release endorphins, which ease depression, reduce stress and anxiety, boost self-esteem, even can contribute to reducing weight and pain. So, there's a lot of great reasons to celebrate. Also, it builds confidence when youth are celebrated. I think Beth alluded to this. It allows them to know that somebody's paying attention. It creates memorable moments for small successes. You can drown out negative self-talk. Enforces behaviors. This one is kind of an interesting, like a lot of gamers or even things like Facebook or those kind of applications, they are having you win new badges or getting points or getting different things for playing the game for a certain number of days. And whether or not that's a good thing, certainly celebration, this has been tapped into in those applications, so that they're picking up on the idea that celebration is something that we want, and it's going to reinforce the behaviors that we have. One thing on that is that it's important to be careful not to conflate a celebration with a bribe and with a reward, and kind of keeping those two things, while they can be sort of interchangeable, making sure that like celebrations are tied to something very specific. They're tied in advance. So maybe it's part of a routine, but it's not a bribe. If you do this, then we get to do that. That celebration is a little bit different. It has a little bit more depth, I think, to it. And it asks youth to reflect on something that they're celebrating, can help them get in the habit of looking for positive. So that's another way in which it's reinforcing that behavior of looking for positive things about themselves, instead of really getting pulled down into that negative self-talk. The other thing is that it has a snowball effect. So when people are celebrating with you, they're thinking about, well, the ways in which they might celebrate their own victories and successes. And it creates an opportunity for family to share in each other's successes. So maybe the siblings are going to start being more invested in each other's success, because now they know that a celebration is going to come and it's going to involve everyone. Or they're more intimately aware of whatever that person's goals are, things like that. And I also think it's important to talk about, Beth alluded to this, celebration, not just of these moments of pride, but also struggles. We can celebrate struggles. We can celebrate trying something new. We can even celebrate failure and saying, like, what did you fail at today? Awesome. That's great. That means you tried something different and you're putting yourself out there. So it doesn't need to be something that's only a good thing. It's something that maybe we can celebrate each other and recognize each other's efforts and attempts. So keeping that part of the celebration is a focus on effort. And then also another thing on here is it encourages mindfulness. It's taking a second to pause, validate each other, be in the moment. Somebody earlier said breaking up the monotony, and that's kind of, and celebrating those small wins. That's all a piece of this science of celebration and why it's important. Does anyone have anything they want to add to that? Or things that maybe it has, that it brings up for you or that you're thinking about?
I'm thinking about how the enforcement of behavior, you used the example of how game makers and Facebook use it to reinforce the behavior that could be considered addictive. I also found I've been trying out all these new habit tracking apps to try and get myself into a better morning routine. And they also are using celebration. If you achieve the 5 things you said you do that morning, it says don't stop until you celebrate, because celebrating in this case is reinforcing a good habit instead of the addictive habit.
Yeah, thanks for that. There's definitely like the positive pieces of those, and we want that to be outweighing those things that are trying to pull us off our track.
I think one of the things I struggled with as a mom is, this idea of, I think it's related to, like, Mary, you're saying the caution to not have it be kind of tied like a bribe, right? But I think that there's a lot of times, I guess I just think about like that classic example of we'll go have ice cream, or we'll go and, like, what's the balance? I'm not saying that's always wrong, but then sometimes I think about, like, when personally, having always struggled with food and my weight, is, like, if we tie too much of celebrations with, like, yay, we're going to eat something, and we're going to, and then it's things that are maybe not necessarily healthy, that then over time we're kind of reinforcing to become the comforts. You know what I mean? When we think about, like, when I feel down, then what do I do to comfort myself? How do we find that balance, right? So that it's not, okay, I mean, there's a whole, right, we talk about comfort food, and that somehow is related to how our families, like, we ate good food and we felt good and we were together, and, and then it's like, I think everything is in moderation, obviously, but I'm just curious, anyone else struggle or have good solutions for that, especially with kids as we're building life habits with them?
I'll jump in real quick. I think that's a great point. And I think that a lot of times we do think about celebration as, some kind of treat. And maybe part of it is rethinking what a or redefining celebration to be a little bit broader, and even, like incorporating it into part of a family routine, and just saying, like, okay, what we're going to celebrate today is, I'm going to say, hey, Mel, what are you most proud of that you did this week? And maybe that's before we do movie night or something, that we take a moment. That's part of that mindfulness, is like taking a moment to actually pause. And it's almost like bringing in some reflection as part of that. But I would be curious also to hear from some of the parents too, what you think in terms of that, like, piece of connecting celebration to some kind of reward, and not becoming, making that your comfort, your new addiction.
This is Rachel. That's a legit reality that we experience often. It's like, oh, you can give them more candy, more cake, more, and then they love it. They love it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to infuse like an activity instead, like be it arts and crafts, or go out for a hike and you do that. Or we've lately tried to learn new songs about different, or make up new songs about different celebrations, which has been kind of fun. But the other thing that's slipping in our culture today is, if you don't give them sweets, you give them stuff, right? So they either have a whole lot more stuff or they have sugar in their systems. So I haven't found the beautiful balance, but just trying to infuse activities more is what we're doing. And my kids are young, so I'm not sure with older teenagers and such.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel. It is great. It reminds me of I remember when my niece was being potty trained. And my sister did, instead of, every time she pooped in the toilet, they did a poo-poo party, and they just danced together for like a second. And, I think as they get older, the poo-poo party is like less and less appealing. But, for my 2-year-old niece, that was enough, that they just like took a moment to celebrate. And, but the real question then is, how do you translate that to an older, to older kids? And as they get more, maybe they get a little more sophisticated, what are the ways in which you can celebrate that don't include physical stuff, whether it's food or stuff?
Well, and I think to that, like with teens, I think it is such a challenge when, again, I think it's for those that think a lot about, or that have subconsciously or consciously, that it's kind of in that realm of bribes, that it's like, okay, great, you did this, now you get more screen time, right? And it's like the thing that you're struggling to pull them back from all the time, which we've had whole conversations about, right? Is like, you're trying to pull them back, and yet you reward them when they're like, if you finish your chores, then you get your screen time or whatever. And so I totally get, sort of, I love focusing on the concept of just like, celebration doesn't even have to be anything other, it doesn't have to be a physical or a treat or a, anything other than a stop and a pause and an acknowledgement. It doesn't have to be a thing. And I think that's really important and so valuable, especially, Rachel, sounds like you're doing awesome things, but especially when they're younger, because at some point, oh my gosh, I've instilled these things, and I don't think I screwed up my kids too bad. Now that they're adults, I think I did okay. I managed to do okay, maybe despite some things, but I think that's I'm really appreciating that.
Yeah, it's a good point of not mixing up the idea of celebration with the idea of a reward, because they definitely are two different things that have some overlap. And so you can get, I think the reward is almost like easier to do, or it's easier to think of maybe, but actually that, like you just mentioned, Keisha, that idea of just like a celebration could be just taking a moment. And that's where infusing it into your routines can really be beneficial, is that maybe it's every day at dinner. Before you start dinner, you're sharing an accomplishment or you're sharing a failure. So what did you get to fail at today? Or you're maybe doing it if you already have a regular routine. Friday nights, we do movie nights, like incorporate it into a piece of that. And it's almost like moving it more into the realm of acknowledgement than reward, that it's an I see you moment. But I did, on that note, I did see a really cute, and I don't know if maybe somebody can help me share a picture. I saw a really cute thing. It was not actually about celebrations, but I thought I have a picture, and it's a family bucket list, and someone made this little bucket, and then like on a piece of paper, and they put just like things they wanted to do. And so all of it was, we're going to go camping, or we want to do, bucket list for the summer, or whatever it is. And that would be a great thing to tie to a celebration, is like, when we get to this certain point, you do the bucket list. So can I put a picture in the chat? Is that a thing? Yeah. Okay. I'll try to do that.
I put a Google Drive link to the bucket list activity you had.
Oh, okay. I have actually a picture. That one doesn't have the picture itself, but that's okay. That's great.
It's got a little drawing of it. My sister-in-law, the one that has the 3 kids around the corner, she's done that, and they have a chalkboard up in their dining, kitchen dining room. And they had like summer bucket list and winter bucket list. And, for them having kind of, especially in the last couple of years ago, when they had recently moved to the area, there was still so many things that they knew they wanted to do, that they hadn't yet done in the area. So it was those, go to the lava tubes, or, kind of a little bit of staycation sort of things that they could put on their bucket list, which was neat.
That's really cool. Can you see the picture now? The way
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, I thought it was really cute.
Yeah, I know for me, in this line of thought of not making it celebration a bribe or a tangible thing, growing up, my family had a plate that said "You're special" or something like that around the edge of it. And my mom would put it out for either myself or my sister when something cool happened in our lives that day. And it wasn't like tied to it from the outset, if that makes sense. It's not like, okay, if you get an A on a test, you're going to get to eat off the plate tonight. It was just, we showed up for dinner and, oh my gosh, I have this I'm special plate tonight. Cool. Like, and then it was this moment for the whole family to share whatever special thing had happened that day. So just creating, I think, those moments of acknowledgement for young people to feel like they did something worth the family celebrating. And that's image and that feeling sticks with me to this day. I can picture exactly what the plate looked like, how it felt to sit down and see that I got the plate. Yeah, that was a cool thing from my childhood.
Thanks for sharing, Beth. That's very cute. I love that idea.
So it was like every night. Was it every night? Like it was a random, or kind of more random when you felt like it?
Yeah, it was random. It was not super often. So it really felt like something worth celebrating
Special.
to happen.
Yeah. Neat.
Well, I put up some ideas here that we had kind of just put together before this talk. But I also wanted to invite, I know at least Melanie and maybe Beth, we incorporate celebration into our programs regularly as an intentional way to take some time and acknowledge, particularly in our teen programs, acknowledge the work that they've done with developing service projects or the service that they have given. So we also do that in our younger programs. It just happens that Beth and Melanie are both in our teen team. And I would love for you to share some ideas of ways that you have done it with groups, and maybe if you have any thoughts about how that could be translated to family. That'd be great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead now.
Well, I you had one thing in there that came up earlier, I think, or was make it more of a routine, right? So I know for my teen clubs, at the end of every day, we don't leave without doing a group, and they get to decide what are they gonna cheers in the, we're celebrating something like we did it, or we're awesome. And it's always something like that. It's small, but it's not connected to that materialistic thing. And it's a way we always end the group of celebrating our accomplishments for that day.
Yeah, and I was gonna point out firstly that Rachel and I both dropped links for the plates in the chat. That's cool that you guys have that, Rachel. It's pretty much exactly like the one I had growing up. And Eam, your question was exactly tying into what I was going to share in terms of what we do to celebrate our teens in our programs. So Eam asked, do you think a child's own language of love is something to consider for these rewards? I think, in my opinion, definitely. What I was going to share is getting the kids involved in deciding what the celebration looks like. Because of course we can take a guess or decide what would feel nice for us, but get them involved and say, like, what makes you feel special? What is your love language? Knowing those things, because maybe for someone, a gift is not really going to mean anything, but a hug or a pause or a day to spend quality time together is going to really connect with them. So that's kind of my tip, and something we do with our teens is before we celebrate, we brainstorm together. What do you all want to do to celebrate your accomplishments?
I mean, coming from the team point of view, there's one activity I do with the teens that I've gotten some really interesting feedback from them on, and it's basically, it's just called the I Am Awesome Soapbox. That's what I've named it. And each teen has to get up for, depending on the group, 1 to 2 minutes. They have to talk about themselves and why they're awesome. And the rest of the group who's listening is going, yeah, you got this, woo! And they're cheering them on. And like, for even just 60 seconds of talking about themselves and why they deserve to be celebrated, they hate it. They can't stand it. They feel like they're bragging. They feel like it's not the right thing to do. And it's like, there's a line between recognizing your strengths and celebrating and bragging. And here's an activity where you're encouraged to openly talk about your strengths, and they do not like it at all. So I think getting into that frame of doing it more often can help them get past this idea of, oh, it's braggadocious to talk about myself. I only talk about myself in a negative light.
Thanks for sharing that, Mel. I think that's hilarious. I could totally see the teens hating it. I could see myself really hating it, but I also see it as like a really great exercise to do. And it reminded me of some activities that we do with the younger kids, where in games, when someone's out, instead of having them stop playing the game, so we play it kind of like a one that comes to mind is Rochambeau Rockstar, where it's basically group Rochambeau, but when you get out, the person you lost to, you cheer them on. And so you're like going behind them, like cheering them on as they're playing other people. And just that idea of incorporating just little acts of celebrating someone for no apparent reason, just because, is a good way of just making a little more comfort with that idea of being celebrated. I'm just seeing, I just figured out how to get the chat open. So I'm just going to share. Eames said, my youth pastor called it honking your horn. And although it felt super awkward, it does something positive intrinsically to acknowledge oneself. Yeah. Does anyone have any other ideas you want to share with the group of different ways that you can celebrate? Any other things to share? Or anything to add on the discussion?
I have a quick one. We tend to sit down and meditate. I put that in air quotes at night because with 2 small children, it's more so just reflecting on our day, and I ask questions, but I also we share like, what was your favorite part of the day, or what was hard about today? And I think just those really special moments where you're actually looking in each other's eyes, sitting around one small space, it's become a celebration for us, and they're asking for it now. They don't want to go to bed without it. So it doesn't have to be a big thing, is what I'm realizing.
Yeah, that is absolutely celebrating the day, which is really important too, for us to give not just on a personal level, but on the whole being able to celebrate what that day brought to you. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that, Rachel. And I love the idea of it, the simplicity there.
Yeah, thinking of the simplicity, what I'm remembering a little celebration I used to have with my little sibling cousins who my parents adopted. We had like secret catchphrases. So it didn't have to be a big thing. It was just when we knew we got what we wanted, we'd look at each other and we'd just make eye contact, say the phrase, and then move on.
That's great.
I was thinking about a similar kind of thing, Mel, and just thinking about how the type of celebration that we're talking about, going back to kind of Eames' question, I feel like should really be personalized for the youth. And so I was thinking about like a little special handshake or like little dance that you do when celebrating someone, and they know like that is my thing with my parent or with my adult mentor, whomever it is. And it's just kind of that secret language between the two of you to say like, this is for us, this is for you, and I'm recognizing what you've accomplished today.
Yeah, love that idea of a secret language that's unique for the individual. Just that, and that kind of gets at the heart of celebrating, is making someone feel special, for sure. Well, I really appreciate everyone's time, and I just wanted to give us one last time to reflect on our conversation today, and maybe something that you are taking away from today's discussion, or something that you are thinking about after having this discussion. And feel free to unmute yourself, feel free to type in the chat.
I was just thinking, I just wanted to acknowledge and thank him for bringing up the love languages, because I just, kind of realized that I need to think more intentionally about that specifically for my son. I think this is, with all kids, this has been an extraordinarily difficult year. But it also, included him losing his big sister to college, which is, he's very close with her. And he's such a kind of, he's very independent, you know what I mean? And he's not, and so it's been so easy to we're just kind of getting by, right, this year. And things are like, I don't know, it just feels like there's like, we don't do as much. So then there's just not as much to, yeah, it's just this has been a really, conversation's been a really great reminder to, come up with things to celebrate, even when you don't feel like there's been significance things. And also to really kind of customize it to him, because I think he's always been the little brother that his sister has the bigger personality. And so it's easy for him to kind of be in that shadow, and he loves her. And so he kind of lives in that glow, but it's not necessarily unique to him. So I appreciate that reminder.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
I wanted to say that it's a good reminder for me too, because I went through, for me, my language of love is like tangible little, mementos more than like big gestures, but I like a physical thing. So I translated that for a long time to my kiddo. And when we did a language of love test, he came out with only wanting words of affirmation. And when he saw those results, he was so relieved, like, yes, don't you get it? And it was as simple as it sounds, though, it actually was a challenge for me, because I had to check my own, expression and find ways so it's not awkward, to be authentic and be like, wow, really, a word is enough? And it really is. Like, for mine, and to be satisfied. I think that was my own personal challenge, was that I needed to be satisfied with saying like, you did great, like I'm proud of you, or that was awesome, or good job, and just stop, like, because it wasn't enough. But yeah,
That's great.
that is a way to celebrate, because this whole time I was thinking like, yeah, food is my thing, like let's get a cake, or let's make something, or what's always some kind of yummy tangible treat. But yeah, it's not always about our way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thanks you guys for these reminders. He's at home today doing distance learning, and he looked at the screen and he gave a thumbs up, like, yeah, mom, we should celebrate me more. Yeah, he approves.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Eam.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Yeah, Eam, your thought there reminded me of a little tradition that I saw just on a blog post about celebration, but of doing like a celebration kind of jar. So when you have something to celebrate, you can write it on a little note and add it to the jar and keep that somewhere visible in the house. And so you kind of see over time, like, wow, look at all the cool things that have happened this month or this year or whatever. And so it's kind of combining those words of affirmation with something a little bit tangible and just at least a visual reminder.
Yeah, that's great, Beth. I like that idea.
A lot of the ideas are so intertwined. Like that's like a gratitude jar, and it all comes back to reflection, and it's just little nuanced ways of how you approach it. Because I think gratitude is also a celebration. Just like if you can turn a simple word conversation about reflection into a celebration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. That's something I'm taking away from this, is kind of making remembering that the celebration is really like, it's part reflection, part gratitude, and part just really intention and putting your attention on someone for a moment.
I think the big thing I'm taking away is the connection between celebration and behavior, and how it reinforces behavior. It really, I know we've all said this already, but like, yeah, I'm also very guilty of, I'm going to celebrate by laying on the couch and eating an entire gallon of ice cream. Like, that's not necessarily good behavior. I should be reinforcing, like, I'm celebrating that I did a good behavior by reinforcing a bad behavior. So that's, for me personally, that's what I'm leaving with.
Mel, that's hilarious. Rewarding yourself with something negative, positive. But if you live a really disciplined life, that is kind of a reward to be able to let go, though, for some people. And
yeah, it's usually like, look, I was healthy this week. Let me eat a gallon of ice cream to make up for it.
If it makes you feel good and continues to make you feel good, yeah, I don't know. I hear you, though. I was just thinking, I think we all need this too, that what you were saying, I think it was you, Beth, that the attention and intention, like, we all need it. I think that, reflecting back, that this is something for us parents to be practicing as well for ourselves, and that it can flow to our kids. It makes me think of like an old Abraham Lincoln saying, as opposed to a new one because he's dead, that that a man can grow only when he is known, and to be known means to be seen, and we all need to be seen for who we are, and it doesn't always mean something tangible, but Mel, you rocked, you worked out hard, and you saw that you had a pit in your stomach that needed to be filled.
Yeah, that is a really great connection to just like being seen. That is what part of what celebration is just seeing someone.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing up the point of modeling it for people, Ian, for younger people. I think that for a lot of kids, that's how they learn, is seeing an example set in their home or by people that they look up to. So if you, as a parent or as a youth program leader, and if you take the time to say like, hey, I have something worth celebrating, I accomplished this, or I failed at this, or I tried something new, just verbalizing it. I know it can be hard to talk about our strengths, but showing that can open the doorway for younger people to do the same and know that it's okay and it's acceptable, socially acceptable and worthy.
Yeah, thanks for adding that, Beth. I think that's totally true with the modeling piece, because again, I was thinking about my niece with when she was learning to eat, she wanted to use regular fork and knife instead of her little baby fork and knife, because that's what she's seeing. So even though she's getting her own little baby utensils, like the model piece is at a certain point, kids start to say, that's kids stuff if I don't see adults doing it. And so if we want celebration to carry through, that we need to say like, this is not kids stuff or adult stuff, this is people stuff. So yeah, thanks Eam and Beth for bringing that up. And Eam says in the chat, I think we all need a pat on the back, even if it's coming from our own hand. Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I really appreciate everyone being here. I appreciate all the things that you've all shared. And Beth has put in the chat can you explain that? What that is?
Yeah, just a really quick feedback form on today's discussion. And for those who maybe don't know, we are doing these community conversations monthly, each month with a different topic, sometimes with other experts in the field outside of Campfire staff. So keep an eye out for more information about upcoming discussions. April's topic is going to be about helping youth appreciate nature and becoming the next stewards of our planet. So looking forward to the future and helping youth to take care of our environment. And then, May, we are hoping to have a special guest child psychologist in May, who's been a really great contributor to these conversations in the past. So keep an eye out. And if you have just 2 minutes, please click that form that I dropped in the chat to just let us know your feedback and things you'd like to see from us coming up.
And I forgot to mention in the beginning, which is part of the reason why we decided to do celebration for this one, is this week we are celebrating Absolutely Incredible Kid Day. And a great way to celebrate your youth is, or your children, is to write them a letter telling them why they're incredible, which is what Absolutely Incredible Kid Day is about, that it's a day of the year where adults can express to youth why they're so incredible. So we would love it if you would write letters to the youth in your life that are important to you and tell them why they're incredible. We would love it if you would make a little video of you telling your youth why they are incredible and send it to us. We are doing a little campaign now, and we'll raffle off for all entries a $200 gift certificate to Campfire Programs. Beth or Melanie or Keisha, do you want to share anything more about Absolutely Incredible Kid Day? I can't believe I just brought it up now, but
No, nothing more. You've got it, Mary. It's just it's a Campfire created national holiday that was started about 20 years ago. And So all across the country, campfire councils are encouraging their communities to take time to celebrate kids. The official Absolutely Incredible Kid Day is Thursday, but we encourage you to just take some time this week. We put our website in the chat there. You can download Letterhead to write a special letter or get other ideas on how to tell your kids that they're incredible.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Bye.
you, Mary.
Say hi to Max for us, Eam.